The sun on my face. Fresh air in my lungs. The grass beneath my feet. I'd heard of such things, yet I lived in a world without them. An underground world. I have no recollection of life before the blast.
There's only Metro, nothing else!
Just a girl when the bombs fell.
You were right all along! It's not just Russia out there. It's the whole world!
Could such things exist again? I live in hope.
Let your hands slay the enemy's servants with no rest or mercy!
See the people I have to work with here. Complete and utter degradation. We are the government you people deserve.
I'll drown you in your own blood!
So you do understand. There is no other way. Man is a beast. A beast!
Who are those people trying to kill us?
It's the strongest who survives!
But don't you see what you're doing to my daughter? Your wife?
You're not saving anyone!
I live in hope. But the future is still all I fear.
Speak, pirate! You summoned the council, so take the word first.
You don't respect the teacher's word!
What is that supposed to mean?
You let an intruder go. He could lead the others here. He saw all of our positions here.
Nobody let him come and start cutting you to pieces. That's going to be a
Yeah, you'll be running around pissing your pants and shouting, "We punished the guard!" Or maybe you'll just surrender.
Running is your forte. You said you were going to hold the lumber mill and ran.
Don't you dare! The boys died there to the last man! The deadlands are spreading. Holding that is harder than keeping one intruder under a lock!
And we will hold the swamp camp. Don't be afraid, weaklings.
You say that again and I'll deck you! Watch your tone!
But he was saying shit about the boys who died there!
We defend ourselves! Attack is the best form of defense.
What? I don't remember the teacher saying that!
The teacher said you have to read. So we read that in our book.
Well, if you read that in your book, then you can attack, and we won't. The teacher also said that you can't just kill everyone. You have to take them to the forest court.
Ah, we expected as much from you. All right, we can handle it ourselves. And we'll hang the second intruder from a post once we catch him.
He's not a bandit, and he didn't hurt the girls. He only defended himself. Why kill him?
Because he's an intruder. Warning.
Enough! I declare this session closed! And now, as hospitality dictates, let's eat together.
Hey! Why did you stop? Hey! Sonny, go check on that drum wizard. Something's off. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can only hope for something to happen to that. Are you riding there? Who's in charge here? Sure I am. What else can I do? Good! I know already. I will get killed when you start your exercise. A good one, though. Oh, fuck you! We're all getting whacked here.
That bitch is there! Gotta reload, people!
We're fucked! Let's get out!
Catch a bullet, you motherfucker! The bitch got one of us! The fuckers tied me up so tight I can't feel my arms! Look, man, the rope's too tight. I can't free myself. I owe you a big one, and...
Noticed anything suspicious here? Everything's fine. Give it a rest. All right. I guess I'll go.
The intruders over there! I see him! He's in! No, I just saw guys! What are you? You dirty bandit! The intruders hit that bed!
In this video, we present a demonstration of real-time ray-traced global illumination on NVIDIA RTX in Metro Exodus. Ray tracing has long been regarded as the standard for offline rendering due to its ability to accurately model the physical behavior of light in the real world. A single ray trace operation searches for the shortest, straight-line path between the pixel currently being drawn and some arbitrary polygon elsewhere in the scene. This search can end up potentially landing on any given polygon anywhere in the entire scene, and with polygon counts ordering in the millions, this can be a very long search indeed. This is why ray tracing has earned itself a reputation for computational intensity. The Turing hardware in NVIDIA RTX is capable of performing many of these searches simultaneously. In the scenes we present, several 100 million such rays are cast every single second. Even at these rates though, we still need to be strategic about how we use each ray, since this equates to a budget of roughly 3 rays per pixel per frame. And so we made decisions right from the start about how best to utilize these rays to get the best results for Metro Exodus. The scenes currently playing give us a much deeper look into the demos that we presented at Gamescom, directly comparing our old and new lighting technology. They are captured in-engine during the course of actual gameplay on an RTX 2080 Ti at a resolution of 1080. Performance differences between RTX on and RTX off attest to the cost of ray tracing algorithms, but also demonstrate the high performance of new cards using conventional rendering techniques. We see how light streaming in through the windows and open doorway bounce off of the brightly lit floor and transfer some of the information to the ceiling, the walls, and objects which would otherwise be in shadow. These parts of the scene do not have a direct line of sight of the sun, and so would otherwise be completely black if we only used a single directional light source, and we were to not perform other checks for secondary lighting interactions. Global illumination aims to model how soft, diffuse light bounces around the scene to reach the dark, shadowy recesses hidden from view of regular direct light sources. Conventional global illumination systems are actually a product of a number of subsystems working together to create a final image. To approximate ambient light, we would have spent a lot of time placing and tweaking subtle point lights. These help to add soft light to the occluded regions but are not representative of true physical lights, and so appear noticeably unnatural. With RTGI, rays generated by surfaces in these dark regions sample other surfaces in the room to calculate how much light is reflected in their direction. This allows any arbitrary surface in the scene to act as a subtle area light source, and it allows us to calculate at a much more accurate, per pixel level, how much light should be received from the environment. Our algorithm works by having each pixel dispatch its set of rays in a pseudo-random distribution in a dome above the surface that that pixel belongs to. By applying a filtering process, which makes use of the rays created by the surrounding pixels and by rays generated in the previous few frames, each pixel will ultimately have access to the information of many cast rays in many different directions, and thus have access to many tested surfaces to determine how much light should be reflected from the environment on towards the camera. By removing the additional lighting methods, we not only reduce the amount of time that we would have spent fine-tuning these scenes, but also those dark hidden surfaces now accumulate light automatically. Also, they can respond dynamically to new lighting situations, rather than being stuck with a pre-built solution. Light in the real world travels effectively indefinitely until it either reaches the surface we are rendering, or is blocked by another surface. On the inside and underside of this vehicle, we see how screen space ambient occlusion alone would not be enough to generate realistic shading. Screen space ambient occlusion limits us to the information contained in just a small region of pixels surrounding the rendered point. The area that these pixels cover may have been as small as just a few centimeters across in the real world. A few centimeters with which to say which directions light is ultimately blocked from, and which it is not. By casting rays over long distances, we can safely determine how many, or how few rays, reach the target pixel. Regions of the scene that are large and open enough to not be shaded by screen space techniques, but which still have very few direct lines of sight of the bright parts of the scene, now darken appropriately. Without casting rays over a significant distance, sometimes many meters, we cannot, for example, determine how little light should penetrate the enclosed architectural features, vehicles, or deep into the mass clutter of objects. Since light can reach the point being drawn from any direction within the dome above it, casting rays in random directions above the surface allows the surface to respond to many large, irregular light sources, independent of where they are in the scene or how they move relative to that point. The results presented here demonstrate a technique that simplifies and improves upon the previous generation of techniques by combining disparate rendering technologies into a single unified algorithm. This new ray-traced global illumination algorithm benefits from access to a wider range of scene information and greater physical accuracy, and enables the creation of more realistic and more believable environments in potentially shorter development times. RTX assists in creating open, natural environments as well, lit appropriately according to the contributions from sunlight alone. This concludes our presentation. Ray-traced global illumination will be available in Metro Exodus on NVIDIA RTX technology on February 22nd, 2019.
Hey friends, Brad from Team Green ANZ bringing you more coverage. We're talking Metro Exodus. I'm honoured to be joined by John, executive producer. What's the game going to be about this time around?
So this is the third installment in the Metro series, and in the previous games we've pretty much been stuck inside Metro system in Moscow. And in this one we actually get to go outside of Moscow. We get to go on a journey across post-apocalyptic Russia. We get to see more of the country and what's happened since the apocalypse. So Artyom is back, the main character from the previous two games. So we pick up where we left off story-wise from Metro Last Light, from the good ending where he survives. And he boards a train with a small group of survivors and goes on an epic journey that spans a whole year across Russia. And it's really cool because we get to show off the different seasons as you go along. So like in the announced trailer that we've released, you get to see this environment that is from later in the game, and it's in autumn. So you get to see, completely new environment styles, everything. It factors into gameplay and the types of people that you'll encounter, the types of societies you'll encounter, and probably I think the most interesting and coolest thing that we're introducing with this new game is non-linear levels. So in the past, you've been able to go outside onto the surface and explore around a little bit more in previous games, but in this one we really wanted to push that and really wanted to build on studio heritage and some of the team heritage that goes all the way back to the days of Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. And we wanted to kind of combine those experiences into something that still maintained the classic linear story-driven experience that is Metro, but then introduce something new and exciting and interesting that also adds an enormous amount of gameplay experiences for the player.
I assume you're going to be using the same engine you've used for the previous ones?
It's our proprietary engine. We call it the 4A engine, and we've been using this engine and developing and improving it since the studio was started in 2005. And it's the same engine we've used in the past for Metro 2033, Metro Last Light, same engine we're using for our VR title. And we're dedicated to making sure that it works as well as it can regardless of the platform. And specifically, our studio has had a long-standing relationship with you guys at NVIDIA. We love you guys. We've always been dedicated to trying to work closely with you guys in order to make sure that our game works as good as it can and looks amazing. And if you stay tuned for more news about what we're actually doing with this game, I think you'll be really, really happy with what you hear.
Hello and welcome back to GeForce. I'm Julian here with Ben Archer. We're going to talk about Metro Exodus. So there's a lot of interesting technical stuff you guys showed off during our live stream. We'll get into all that. First though, tell us about Metro Exodus.
Okay, so Metro Exodus is the latest in the Metro series after 2033 and Last Light. And it's now a way more ambitious project. So we've grown massively as a studio, and we wanted to bring you something that was much, much bigger. We've migrated it out of the tunnels of the Metro, and we're now taking the players on a continent-wide journey across Russia, across Asia, spanning an entire year through vast open-world areas with hours of gameplay for them to experience.
Now that we know what the game's about, I think really what we're here to talk about is the RTX technology and how you guys are implementing it. And this is your forte, right? You're all about the rendering.
Yes.
So what's this RTX tech and how are you guys implementing it?
Okay, so RTX is a hardware-accelerated method of doing real-time ray tracing. Now, ray tracing has been the holy grail of rendering right from the beginning. It allows us to implement in hardware actual physical modeling of the way that light behaves in the real world. So when a light ray propagates through the world, it can search the scene for whatever surface it needs to fall upon. There's no sort of approximations using light probes to say, these surfaces should illuminate you in a certain way. No, now when we send a ray out into the scene, we get back information directly pertinent to what that light ray should have been bringing in and how that lighting information should directly illuminate a surface.
So what's that doing for you now with Metro Exodus?
Right, well that's doing a number of things. First of all, we've been able to implement a brand new global illumination system, RTGI. And that gives us for the first time true, physically accurate first bounce illumination. So what that means is that for any given surface, the incoming light rays, they're actually true to what would be happening in nature. So it's a real, true physical simulation. The knock-on effect of that is that it allows us to have emergent details because the simulation is accurate. So our artists can set up a scene, they can bung in the directional light, and they can see how that scene is illuminated realistically without hours of extra balancing with various light techniques.
So this new tech actually, imitates how light bounces around a room. What were you guys doing before? How did the technology work before RTX?
Okay, so traditional lighting systems are a series of steps working together to build up a realistic lighting solution. So you have an array of various techniques that you tweak and balance, and then you combine them at the end to come up with the final image. What RTX enables us to do is merge those effectively, because those are all simulations of a single facet of what actual lighting behavior does, whereas RTX is a proper model of the way lighting actually works.
You know, now that Artem's venturing out into the world all the time, you're going to have the sun and the moon lighting up your scenes constantly. You have a day-night cycle in Metro Exodus. It's kind of fortuitous timing that RTX becomes a thing right when Metro's sort of emerging from the tunnels, don't you think?
Absolutely, yes. It does fit in very, very well with the narrative of Metro Exodus and various other things. I mean, the way our engine has always been built, the APIs just fit in so well for us, and it's still a brilliant engine that was there to deliver, you know, high-end graphics, but now we can extend it even more with this new amazing